Okay, hey everyone, it's Friday and Zer's back in Destiny 2. Let's go ahead and take a look here. He's in Nessus and Watcher's Grave up in the big tree. So let's go ahead and take a look at his inventory.
This is why the Nine sent me here.
Okay, so we have Crimson for the featured exotic this week. If you haven't played around with Crimson, I think I've talked about it on these videos before, but this is a really strong hand cannon, both in PvP and to a certain extent in PvE, though it's definitely more PvP oriented. If you haven't played around with it, definitely go pick it up. I think you're going to enjoy using it. Hand cannon just got a buff recently as well in PvE, so try it out there, see how you like it. Providing some continuous healing to you is always pretty useful. As far as the exotics go, we have Gemini Jesters for hunters here. So, as it says, basically, using your dodge, it kind of drops, I don't want to say like a smoke bomb, but it sort of disorients the people that are around you, and it also takes away their radar for a little bit. So, it's a little similar to dropping a smoke bomb on them. In terms of the role, I don't hate it, but I'm not in love with it either. It's a little bit high in mobility, but it is a hunter exotic, so hunters do want more ability more than anybody else, so I'm actually okay with that. What I'm struggling with here is the 2 resilience. I would really like more there. You know, maybe that 10 that's in strength being there instead would be a lot better. But 15 recovery is not terrible, and 22 discipline also not bad. Hunters do want their grenades just as much as anybody else. So if you haven't tried Gemini Jesters, or if you don't have a better role, I would go ahead and grab these. But if you have another pair already that you're using, it's part of a build, I don't think this role is good enough that you need to run out and grab this. I don't think you need to replace your current one, unless this one happens to be a better role. It is a base 68. Going over to the Titan exotic here, we have Helm of Saint 14. This was actually broken at the start of the season, but it's working now. And this is definitely one of the better Titan exotics, and certainly one of the more iconic ones. So what it does is when you use your bubble, your Ward of Dawn, which is bubble, normally whenever you step outside of the bubble, you lose your overshield right away. Helm lets you keep the overshield when you leave the bubble, which makes it a lot easier to use it as almost more of an offensive tool as opposed to just a defensive tool. It also makes sure that enemies, when they walk into the overshield, get blinded, which is also very useful. As far as the role, I actually really like this a lot. Base 68, so it's got a decent amount of stats to start with, and 23 resilience is awesome. Not only because resilience is probably the most valuable stat in the game right now because of how it affects damage resistance, but also because that is the Titan stat. Following that, we've only got 2 mobility. We've got 11 recovery, which is a perfectly reasonable number to have there. Recovery is not totally useless yet. 2 discipline's a little low, to be honest. 17 intellect is kind of high, and 13 strength is fine. If intellect and discipline were swapped on this roll here, I think this would absolutely be perfect, and I would be screaming at you to go pick it up immediately. As it is, compared to the roll you already have, this might still be better, but definitely take a look at one you already have. And if you don't have one, please go grab this right away. I think you're going to have a lot of trouble replacing this one, and I think it's really going to make Bubble a lot more playable for you. Finally here we have the Warlock exotic, which is Crown of Tempests. Now this kind of had its lunch eaten by Fallen Sunstar, but overall still a very good exotic, and it has had some changes to kind of catch it up with the rest of the exotics. So what it does is whenever you get final blows with arc abilities or jolt, it will give you energy back on your arc abilities. Now the big change here was that it includes jolt kills now, which is huge. It actually puts it in a similar spot to where Lucky Raspberry is right now with hunters. It makes it a lot easier to just loop abilities if you just got a couple jolt guns on. Definitely worth trying if you haven't used it recently. And as far as this roll goes, honestly, I can't really complain. 8 mobility was a little bit higher than I would like it at 2, and the resilience is quite low. That's unfortunate, but it does have 25 recovery, which is actually a pretty good roll in terms of Warlocks, since recovery is your class stat. Discipline's low, not a huge fan of that. 10 intellect is fine, and 20 strength is actually really nice because, again, we're looking to be looping arc abilities. I think discipline would have been better, but it is what it is. To make this roll perfect, I probably would put the 10 intellect and resilience, and the 20 strength and discipline. And I would call this like a perfect roll. As it is, it's a base roll 67. It's got a lot of recovery. It's got a lot of strength. I think this is worth picking up. Now, if you have a better roll, I wouldn't go replace it. But if you don't have one, if you haven't tried it out since the changes, definitely pick it up, give it a shot, and let me know how you feel. Looking at legendary weapons now. First one here is Tears of Contrition. This roll is not particularly impressive, but this is a crafted weapon. So if you want one, this is a place to go ahead and use your harmonizers, pick up 5, and craft one. As far as 180 scouts go, it's not bad, and being able to craft one makes it a lot easier than trying to hunt down various Vanguard scouts or like hung jury when they come around. That said, I would point out that this is available through grinding out the Presage exotic mission, which is actually coming around next week. So if you do just want to wait next week and really hammer out grinding Presage, you could, in theory, get enough tiers. But if you don't want to wait for that or don't want to do all that grinding, picking up 5 here and using your harmonizers there is not a bad call. Another crafted weapon here, we have No Reprieve. This is a slug shotgun. Surplus Focus Fury, not a bad roll, but this isn't a particularly impressive slug shotgun to begin with. It never really had fantastic rolls, but if you don't have anything better, like you don't have like a really good Fortissimo, this isn't bad. Definitely consider picking it up if you're looking for a slug in the kinetic slot, but if that's not really your play style, I don't think you're really missing anything by avoiding this one. And like Tears, this is craftable, so if you don't want to try and grind one out, I think those guns are dropping from... Actually, they're not yet. So actually, this is the only place to get them right now. So actually, if you want one, if you want a crafted slug shotgun in your kinetic slot, pick up 5. Use your harmonizers. Our next one here is Death Adder. So I did say some negative things about Death Adder last week as well when it was around, and I had someone in my community reach out and talk to me a little bit about how Death Adder's stats actually line up against 900s, and I was actually corrected. I missed something with the stat rolls between Death Adder and another 900 I compared it to, where actually there was some decrease on the range stat in a place I didn't notice it. So I would like to add that as an addendum. Death Adder's stats are not particularly out of band for a 900. It's just that Funnel Web is really, really out of band in terms of stats. That said, as far as the roll here goes, Feeding Frenzy is fine. Disruption Break is kind of where I'm in the middle on it. I would rather that be Dragonfly, but Disruption Break is fairly interesting. That's a really rare perk nowadays. I don't think new guns really get Disruption Break. It's almost exclusively older guns like this one. And it is not a bad perk. It's just kind of niche. So what it does is when you break an enemy's shield, it makes them more vulnerable to kinetic damage. Now, typically you would only get this on energy weapons, so what you're kind of looking at here is you break the shield with the energy weapon, and then you'd swap to a kinetic, probably like a special kinetic, because those do a little bit more damage anyway. So like a shotgun or a sniper rifle, and finish off your target with doing a little bit of extra damage. If you're looking to take down a hard target, like an orange bar hive wizard, with their solar shields, pop the shield, quick swap your kinetic slot, and you'll take that enemy down a lot faster. Like I said, it's kind of niche, but I do think it serves a role. And honestly, this also has Arrowhead on it and Extended Mag. This isn't a bad role. If you want to try it out, I would say go ahead and pick it up. It's not my favorite SMG, but it's certainly not a bad one. Next one here, we have Deafening Whisper. This was the first Void wave-frame grenade launcher. It's not the first wave-frame. The first one was back in the Season of the Dawn, but it's the first Void one. It's back from Season of the Hunt, so the season that launched with Beyond Light. This isn't the role you really want on it. I like seeing auto-loading holster here, but really what you're looking for on a Deafening Whisper is something like Ambitious Assassin and Rampage, something like that. This isn't quite getting there. The auto-loading holster is interesting, but moving target does effectively nothing on this gun. It's a neat gun. If you don't have any Void Wave frames, I guess you could pick it up, though there is one still dropping in the Whirlpool right now. I wouldn't grab this one unless you really want it for collections. Next on the list here, we have yet another crafted gun. It's Tarnished Metal. This is from the same season as the Slug Shotgun we talked about before. And this is a ARC Scout Rifle, 200 RPM, which is an interesting archetype. I think they're a little bit better than 180s in my opinion, but obviously that's personal choice. In terms of the roll here, we have Demo Focused Fury, which it's not the roll you actually want on this gun. It's actually not a terrible roll. It's definitely worth picking up if you just want to have one and want to play around with it. I think you'll get a good experience out of it. But if you really want the full value out of this gun, I would grab 5, spend your harmonizers, because you can give this gun Volt Shot. And believe me, being able to jolt targets from across a room with a scout rifle is very, very valuable. It's really strong, especially in harder content like Master Nightfalls, Grandmaster Nightfalls, and Master Raids, where you want to be across the room where possible and still deal with a large number of adds at once. It's a really unique scout rifle, and I would definitely recommend picking them up if you don't have one. Alright, and yet another crafted gun. Zer's coming in here to make you spend your harmonizers this week. We have Retrofit Escapade. This is a 900 RPM Void LMG, and for a time was probably the best LMG in the game. Definitely top 2, for sure. The other one in contention being Commemoration from Deepstone Crypt. But especially if you're not a raider, this is probably the best LMG you can get. The roll isn't exactly what you want on it. In fact, Banshee sold something really close to the perfect roll. I think it was late last week, so hopefully you got to see that. But if you didn't, Feeding Frenzy is still a really good roll. The big issue with LMGs is that you're having trouble, having to deal with reloading them, and they reload really slowly. Between Feeding Frenzy giving you that extra reload speed, and then that little bit of reload speed kind of scaler on Frenzy, you're going to reload this gun really fast when you're out of ammo. It's got a really deep magazine. You've got options between extended to have a really deep magazine or steady rounds to be really on target. And then in terms of barrels, you have Arrowhead, which makes it really easy to control, which is a big factor for 900s. They do tend to kick a lot. This also has a reload speed masterwork. This is an excellent roll on this LMG. If you don't have one crafted already, I would go pick this up. Now, I do have to point out, though, Banshee did sell a really good roll recently that I would argue was slightly better. And more importantly, this is actually available to drop as a red border right now. It is available as part of the Exotic Mission Rotator on Seraph Station, which is actually the one this weekend right now. So if you got a chance, maybe go ahead and jump in there and see if you can get some random rolls on this. And maybe get some red borders to work towards crafting one of your own. That said, not everyone has the time to do that. So, if you don't have a crafted one and you don't have time to go grind a whole bunch of Seraph Stations, I would go ahead and buy 5 of these, spend your harmonizers on them, and I would not feel bad about it. This is an excellent gun, and if you don't want to craft it, just want one, this is an excellent roll to keep. Alright, and taking a look at Legendary Armor, this is actually an interesting one. We haven't seen this armor from Zer in quite a while. This is the kind of world drop armor from, I think it was Season of the Undying, right when Shadowkeep came out. So kind of Vexy, it's got some plant growth on it. And as far as Zer armor goes, it's actually a rare find. He does not bring this around very often, maybe once a year or so. So if you like this armor, check it out. Maybe just pick them up for Transmog. In terms of the rolls, let's go ahead and take a look. Titan first here. 65 is interesting. High recovery is interesting. High discipline is interesting, but there's no resilience here. I would probably not pick these up. It's an interesting roll, but I don't think it's going to make it to be better than most of the other arms you're probably keeping. 65 on the chest here. Way too much mobility in my opinion. This is a class item. For the helmet here, we've got another interesting roll. And this is a 66 base. Minimum mobility. Unfortunately, minimum resilience. But that's a lot of recovery and a fair amount of discipline. This helmet might be worth picking up. And last here we have the legs. These aren't great. Minimal mobility is nice, but I would like more discipline. I'd like less intellect. The other numbers here are fine. I don't think these are bad pickup, but I wouldn't drop everything to go grab them either. These are just okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our... Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our hunter armor here. Whoa. Okay, that is a roll. If you have a hunter, please stop by Zur and buy these arms. 2 mobility is kind of low for a hunter, but for the most part, that's fine. 30 resilience spike is huge. 2 recovery, okay, but you also have spikes in discipline and strength. This is a really min-max arm piece, and frankly, I think if you pick this up, it's probably going to be part of your hunter's permanent loadouts for a very long time. Go grab this right away. You know, at least run it through D2 Armor Picker and see if you can keep it, but definitely worth stopping by Zur just to pick this up this weekend. Chest. Not impressed by that. Class item. Helmet. It's okay, but the numbers aren't quite where I want them to be. This is probably missable. And for the legs here, also probably missable. This is just really flat. So there's our hunter. Grab the arm piece. Everything else you can probably miss. Let's go ahead and take a look at Warlock. Okay, and let's take a look at our Warlock armor then. Okay, yeah, I think these arms are alright. 20 resilience is good. It has recovery that exists. Discipline's good. Strength is good. Personally, I think the intellect and mobility are a little bit high, but overall, this has a real shot at being a good arm piece for you. Maybe not worth running out and picking up irrelevant of what you have, but if you're fairly new or you don't have a really strongly rolled arm piece yet, this might be worth going out and picking up. This is okay. I think it's got a little bit too much mobility for me, in my opinion, but and then also lacking resilience is kind of a problem, but it's got decent recovery. It's got decent discipline. I wish that intellect was in strength. I think this is missable, but I wouldn't tell you you're wrong if you wanted to go grab it. Class item. Oh no, that is not the helmet you want on a warlock. Maybe on a hunter, but even then I'd be suspicious of that on a hunter too. And the legs here, honestly not terrible. It's got discipline, it's got strength, it's got resilience. I really wish that mobility was in recovery, but actually I think these are pretty good. I would grab these and then just see if you can slot them in somewhere. If not, again, worst thing it costs you, 50 shards. Okay, now that we've gone through all the armor, let's go ahead and take a look at our second page here, which again is just Hawkmoon. I keep forgetting about that. Anyway, on our Hawkmoon here we have Rangefinder, which actually is probably the Hawkmoon you're looking to replace. Rangefinder got changed at the start of this season, and it doesn't work quite the same it used to. It used to provide a bunch of extra visual zoom for you, and then also it changed both the range of the gun as well as the range of like damage fall off and things like that. That has changed now. The only things it's doing is providing a visual zoom increase, and also extends the aim assist a little bit farther out, which is definitely still valuable, to the point where I think if you have a rangefinder role you like, I don't necessarily think you need to replace it. That said, Hawkmoon does have some other really valuable roles as well. It comes with moving target, it comes with opening shot, it has Eye of the Storm, it has Killing Wind, all of which are really good, tried, tested, proven PvP perks, which is really where you're using Hawkmoon. It's very rare you're going to pull Hawkmoon out in PvE. So I think if you really like Rangefinder, if you're really used to that, I think keeping it is fine. But if you don't have a Hawkmoon, I wouldn't pick this one up. And certainly, I personally am in the market to replace my Rangefinder Hawkmoon with like an opening shot roll. All right. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. That's our weekend with Zur. Like I said, he's in Nessus right now by Watcher's Grave. As far as this weekend goes, no trials this weekend. It's still Iron Banner. Iron Banner reprised both the Guiding Sight and Point of the Stag. I think they look a little silly with their shaders, but they've got some really good rolls on them now. So I'm definitely an Iron Banner all weekend. I'll be on stream this weekend playing a lot of Iron Banner. I'm already almost at my first reset. See if I can get to a second one by the end of the weekend. So definitely catch me on Twitch if you can. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by. Leave any comments below with any suggestions or questions you might have. I do read every single one. And I'll be back next week with another Xur video. Thanks again.